Yerushalmi and Yuma says the following: Matzanu shleichorav bayis harishon el shahayu oivdei avodah zara gili arayis v'shvichas damim. The first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because we had gili arayis, avodah zara, and shvichas damim. Aval b'sheni, in the second Beis HaMikdash, mekirim anu shahayabem yagiyim b'Torah. They had yeshivas and they sat and they were yagia. Yagia means they were sweating and learning Torah all day. V'zihirim b'mitzvos, and they were following all the mitzvos. They had a perfect lulav. They had a perfect shmona esrei. When it says zihirim b'mitzvos, it means they did all the mitzvos. U'b'maisros, they did meiser. They gave meiser 10% at tzedakah. V'chol veset toiva hoisa behem, and they had every good attribute in the world. Ela shahayu oyevim es hamaman. They loved money. That's why the second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. V'soinin ela le'elu sinas chinam. And they hated each other, a free hate. I want to try to unpack this Yerushalmi, because most times, most people never quote the Yerushalmi. They quote the Bavli. Now, the Bavli was written 300 years after the Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi came first. The Bavli was written in Chutz La'aretz. The Yerushalmi is teaching us something very deep that maybe the Bavli didn't want to include. But if we want to understand what's the essence of Tisha B'Av, what are we fasting for? What are we crying for? Al elu ani bachia. It says shahayu oyevim es hamam, they did all the mitzvahs. Chol veset toiva haya behem. They had everything good. Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven in Parshas Matos, they come to Moshe Rabbeinu and they say, in Perek Lamed Beis, it says that they come to Moshe and they say, we came to Eretz Hagilad, we came to this land, and we see this land is for cattle, and we have lots of cattle. It's min hashamayim. We're supposed to be here. Says Moshe Rabbeinu, Achechem yelchu b'machom v'atem teishvu poi. Moshe Rabbeinu says, your brothers are going to go to war, you're going to stay here. And Moshe repeats the whole story of the Meraglim, that the Meraglim came and they said bad, and on Tisha B'Av they came. And everybody cried, and the Hashem said, you're going to have to die. All of you are going to die. And your children will go into Eretz Yisrael. But you'll die in Chutz La'aretz. And then Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven make a second appeal. And what's the second appeal? Vayikshu elav vayomu gederes tzoin nivne lemiknenu poi va'arim letapenu. Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven say to Moshe Rabbeinu, we're going to make fences for our sheep. We're going to build places where we can keep all our sheep. We have lots of sheep. Va'arim letapenu, and after we'll build cities for our children. Says Rashi, Nivne lemiknenu poi chosim hoyu al mamoinam yoyisem ibneim uveneisem. Rashi says they loved their money more than their kids. Shekdimu mikneim letapam. They first dealt with their animals and then with their kids. Says Rashi that the chet of the Meraglim was one chet. They said they don't want to go. Now, if the Meraglim would have just said we're afraid of war, that's okay. Every time we have a Muhammad, any person who's afraid doesn't need to go. They can go home. And if you look in the story of Gidon, at the end, when he said anybody who's afraid should slip away in the morning, and 300 people were left and they won the Muhammad. We don't need numbers. But the chet of the Meraglim was, they said, we'd rather go back to Mitzrayim. What was Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven? Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven, what did they say? They said, we'd like to have a place for our money. Their money, Rashi says, was more important to them than their children. When we look in Bnei Tzlafchad were the opposite. You think, what's so special about Bnei Tzlafchad? Why is Bnei Tzlafchad better? Why is the Torah, the last Parsha, Parshas Maseh, the last Parsha of the Torah, the last pasuk of the Torah, the second to last pasuk of the Torah says, it says that Hashem, ve'ela amishpotim v'amitzvos Hashem gave, but the second to last pasuk, the entire last Parsha of the Torah is the Parsha of Bnei Tzlafchad. Why is Bnei Tzlafchad the final message? We know that the final message of the Torah is always the most important thing. We darshan 1,000 pages on Bereshis. Does anybody darshan 1,000 pages on the last pasuk of the Torah? Bamidbar is the end of the Chumash. Devarim is a repeat. So what does this mean? Why does the Torah put such emphasis? Says the Medrash, B'nai Slavchad. When did they come to Moshe Rabbeinu? On Tisha B'Av night. On the night of Tisha B'Av, when all the men said, let's go back to Mitzrayim. We don't want to go to Eretz Yisrael. On that night, the women, B'nai Slavchad, showed up. The women who didn't sin in the Egel, the women who didn't sin, showed up and said, give us a piece in Eretz Yisrael. Why is that so important? Of course they had a place, says the Netziv. What's the chiddush that Rashi says, Shechavavu es Eretz Yisrael? Because they had a place, they were from Menashe, and Menashe was half in Chutz La'aretz and half in Eretz Yisrael. They had a place in Chutz La'aretz. They had a big place, says the Netziv. And they said, we'll wait 14 years and get a smaller place in Eretz Yisrael. We're willing to do that. They had values. Values was more important to them than their money. Says the Gemara in Yuma, says the Yerushalmi, that they love their money. V'sanu ish esreyehu, sinas chinam. What does sinas chinam mean? Sinas chinam means a hate. This is my pshat. I think it's Pasha pshat. A hate for free things. We don't want to do something for free. What's in it for me? Put a price tag on everything. That was the chet of Bayis Sheni. That's why the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. On Tisha B'Av, we say, Ha'ir Rabasi Yom Ha'isok Almono. If we spend the entire day of Tisha B'Av investigating why the nation is great, what's the greatness of Klal Yisrael? The greatness of Klal Yisrael is B'nai Tzlafchad. The women who didn't sin, Noshim Shananois, the women are uplifted and higher because they didn't sin. They send their husbands to go learn on Shabbos, says the Gemara. That's how they get their Olam Haba. Yiratzain, that this Tisha B'Av, like it says in Zechariah, that Tzomach Chamishi will be l'sasain l'simcha l'moyadim, and we should be zoicha to be able to be makdish our lives to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to have not like Gad and Reuven and the Chetzi of Menashe, who were not the Ikar, who said, our cattle come first. The money comes first. We have a hate, sinas chinam. We hate things for free. We want to put a price tag on everything. And we're going to be oyev es Hashem, and oyev es hamakom, and oyev es avodah, and v'nachsa avodah lebeis hamikdash b'meir v'yameinu amen.